She's the.
Welcome. This is our Yahowah vlog, and this is our family hour, and we do have a full cast of characters tonight. Up there hot sheeting, which means that he's doing another program within less than 30 minutes of completing a program. That's our beloved Kevin upstairs, and not only did Kevin do that, but he made a few hundred entries to our timeline yesterday on the website. So thank you, Kevin, for being here. It's been a long time since we've had a good conversation, hasn't it?
It has been, yeah.
Yeah, about 20 minutes. We did
30
a blog
minutes
on the blog. Yeah, a blog on the blog. JB, we missed you last week. How you doing, man? Uh-oh, JB is not hearing us. That's a beautiful sunset that you have, JB. I hope we get you so that you can hear what we have to say. But at this point, it's radio silence with JB and in that sunset. We're getting some echo back there. Captain Kirk, it's been, again, about 30 minutes since we did our program on the blog. That was the first time you had a chance to participate on that. That's a fun format, isn't it?
I'd like to. I like it better with Kevin than me, though.
Yeah, I like the fact that with the three of us and with Rich chiming in mightily, four of us, it's a much better experience. I mean, I like the blog on the blog the most because, well, I like talking about the impact of current events and how they're going to shape the future and giving people a unique understanding of how these things play into our future. And you brought a lot to the table with your understanding of the Canada-U.S. trade relationship and Carney's role, and how he represents now the rest of the world that is turning against the United States and the consequence of all that going forward. So, in fact, it's a pretty extraordinary kind of thing. So it was a really good show. But that's my favorite when we have an interactive show like that. I think it's much better than the monologues. Although Isaiah did say I was a talkative stick, and I'm not apologizing. Yahowah likes them that way. Will, you're in a beautiful sunset down there in the beach, and where is that? Where do we find you today?
Well, I don't know. It was just something I found, a stock photo, but it does have the lesser luminary right above here, if you notice.
Yes, yeah. And what we're finding is that lesser luminary is the Khatan actually means that he's younger. That's why I've always been called by Yahowah a young man. He's 600 years younger than the Gadol Mayor, the greater luminary, and so it's primarily that he's just a young squirt. He's 600 years younger than the greater luminary, who was first born as, or conceived as, God's firstborn son, as Adam. Something we demonstrated, provided the proof, and I'll actually read through that statement. I translated it earlier today, because it's one of the most profound insights that you can imagine, is that Adam was Dowd. And that means that Dowd had at least 4 lives. I think it is 6 overall. And as the fact that he had each of those lives tell us that that's integral to God's plan, is to insert people that he knows, that he can trust, that he realizes will get the job done one way or another. And when he finds a soul that's responsive in that way and responsible, he deploys them. Marvelous insight, I think. And we have Dr. Jeff. We know that you are at the hospital today, and that you have a very, very sick young lady that you're trying to save. So that's going to be your priority this evening.
Among other things, among the other shock and or patients here who are in multi-organ failure, but this is important, so this takes priority, and they'll be taken care of.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that you're part of a team. You're a pulmonary specialist, and the young lady we're talking about came into the hospital airlifted in with 25 years old with meningitis, It's such a horrible disease, how it strikes people unknown. And by the time they typically recognize what they have, it's hard to treat and it can be fatal. But you're one of many that is working with her. And I guess the next 48 hours will determine whether or not she's going to be responsive to the treatment.
Correct. Hopefully she will be, and that she'll have, regain her mental status and have no neurologic deficits.
Yes. Yeah, that's a terrible disease. It can affect your brain, your ability to move, paralysis, and once you found it it takes resonance in the spinal cord, doesn't it, initially?
Yeah, and in the central nervous system, when you do a spinal tap or a lumbar puncture and have an infection, yes, and complications can include seizures. You can have loss of hearing. You can have focal neurologic deficits, but young people also tend to be very resilient and can bounce back. Yes. So, picking the right antibiotic initially is a bit of a guesswork, but based on statistics, if she has something like pneumococcal meningitis or Neisseria meningitis, I think she has a fair chance. We have the infectious disease service on the case as well, so we will see.
We'll see. We hope the best for her. We have our Amah this beautiful evening. How is the Asherah and the Amah and Ruth? And I don't know how many other names that you have, but how is
not as many as you?
That's true. And this is not a contest that you actually win with more names.
No.
As you have found out, the more times that you're referenced, the more difficult the job is, and the greater the burden. The more responsibility, but God deserves our full support. We're going to see it through. So. I begged him about a year ago, as you know, and you were there, and you just said, "Oh well, it's tough." But I begged him, said, "Okay."
After Palmoni, you were like, "No more."
You were coming in my study, and you said, "Oh, I've got another one." I said, "No, I'm full up. No more. We're not going to have another. Not going to have another reference, because with each reference, you pick up another target on your back, right there on your head." And the responsibility goes up, and the attacks go up, and you just say, "Oh, come on, God, please, no more." And then what you find out is that he has this clever way of taking you right past the point that you thought you could perform. Just right to the
very edge,
right there, and then
that's called growth.
Yeah, and then he brings up a whole another step. Oh, you thought you were there. No. I just moved the goalpost halfway around the world. Catch up, young man, catch up. And you go, okay, I'll get there. And as soon as you get there, he says, "Oh, yeah, well, surprise. We're going to up the ante. Now's this." So it is kind of fun. You never get bored. But, he has a sense of humor. I will tell you that as we found out that Leah is Ruth and I served as Boaz, when you realize how we got together, we were actually brought together because God said, "Oh, told Leah, go ask Ruth." Mm-hmm. Little did he tell her, "Oh, by the way, sweetheart, you are Ruth." And when you ask Ruth, you're going to find out that that's going to bring you directly to Boaz, who you, by the way, been married to, 6 times already. So you ought to recognize him. And it's going to play out the same way. Yeah, I'm sure if we know he has a sense of humor. This is one where he found unbelievably humorous, is Go Ask Ruth, and all the insight. We have Rich over here, who had the star answer to the last question, and he's sitting beside Perry. There is our captain of the cables. Nice job to bringing everybody together. I think we now have JB. You can hear us, JB?
Yeah. I was having a lot of streaming issues. It turned out OS Studios was just wreaking havoc, so I had to shut that down for tonight.
We've found that the technology doesn't play well. All the various players that have created these means for us to communicate and live stream they don't play nice with each other. And Microsoft happens to be one of the greatest threats to communication, because they're always interfering in one way or another, and they try to have their operating system take over everything, cameras and microphones, and they just come in. No matter how many times you shut them down and say, "Don't you ever do that again," they'll give you another round.
Another round,
and start doing it all over again. I mean, I will tell you that when Leah and I were producing this show, and then early with Rich, that was our nemesis. Every time we turn around, Microsoft had figured out another way to ruin the show, and boy, frustrated. So good to have you here, Perry. Good to have you, Rich. Good to have you, Leah, Dr. Jeff, Will, Kirk, JB, and Kevin. We're in a really interesting period, and I think we do have to give some attention to it. But we have the most nefarious soul who will ever occupy this planet is now the most powerful man on the planet. And you have the world's most popular religion worshiping this man as if he were a Messiah.
Yes.
And yet the prophets were exceedingly clear and said that Rahab, who is the corporeal manifestation of Satan, he will have all of these attributes: sexual perversion, egomaniacal, exceedingly deadly. He'll be a confabulator. There's no correlation between what he believes and what he says. Exceedingly destructive. He's ultimately going to betray Israel. He has goatish comb-over hair. He's advanced in days, therefore he is very old. And God even knew that he was going to have the bone spur. He said, ultimately he's going to be in a wheelchair by the time this is all done. So I guess he recognized the great agony and the pain of that tragic bone spur that he suffered just prior to the Vietnam War, and that the wars that he's going to start. Just a little diagnosis there for you, Dr. Jeff. You didn't know that I had that skill there, but we've got literally Satan in the flesh as the most powerful man in the world operating in our midst, and yet he has a huge fan base of people who don't recognize it.
Entire cult.
Entire cult, and they're both religious and political. And then you have the leader of God's people, Israel, being the devil's apprentice. Netanyahu is the most disastrous thing that could possibly have happened to Israel, and Israel doesn't recognize it. Netanyahu and Trump are both popular in Israel, even though they are the two most destructive forces probably in the history of Israel. And the prophets are very clear as to what's going to happen. We're, just 2 months away from the time of Israel's troubles, and it's going to be worse than the Holocaust. And it's all Israel's fault for supporting Netanyahu and Trump, and particularly this devastating war with Iran that had no chance of success. I mean, there was literally
zero.
It was absolutely certain that it was going to destroy America and Israel, and had zero chance of success. There was no way under any circumstance that America or Israel could win this war.
Actually, Iran is holding the cards right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Iran is getting a terrible beating.
Oh, yeah.
But they're Shiite Muslims. This is what they live for. They live to die. And Islam is a religion where Allah says, every Muslim is either already died fighting and killing for me, or will die fighting for killing for me. And the Shiites are, they're really good at embracing that. And it's not just that you have the Shiite being the most devoted of the martyrdom Muslims, but these are Persians, and so they're smart Muslims. I mean, that's really rare, but they're smart Muslims, and they have America and Israel over a barrel, and there's literally over a barrel. There is no solution.
No.
There is nothing that America or Israel can do to cause regime change in Iran. In fact, it's opposite direction, and
even
there's nothing
Western
they can
Europe
do.
Was a stupid idea.
Yeah.
They don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
No, NATO has said no, not a prayer. And so Trump is saying that NATO is nothing but a bunch of cowards. Can you imagine? You take your single most important defensive treaty, and you tell every other country that's part of that treaty you're a bunch of cowards, and that's something that MAGA can support the president of the United States saying. And he has denounced every ally in Europe, independently and collectively.
It's true.
Like you said, NATO's a defensive alliance. This is an offensive war.
Well, it is a very offensive war, and all manner of speaking. When it starts by killing 150 schoolgirls, and then you blame the other side and say, well, Iran has tomahawks. Obviously, they don't, and that they killed their own, and you won't apologize for it or recognize. That was a really rotten thing to do. Boy, you were grossly immoral at that point. And then you do a decapitation strike and you take out the nation's leadership, and then you complain that there's no one to negotiate a ceasefire with.
He took out his top negotiators too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe ought to have thought that through, right?
Yeah, it's amateur hour with this guy.
Or as they're saying now in the White House,
it's not even amateur.
The justification for Trump starting this war is the closure of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
As opposed to recognizing, wait a minute, Strait of Hormuz was open before you started the war, and it's as a consequence of you doing this, the Strait of Hormuz was closed, and all he's got to say is show some guts and run the blockade. Say what?
Yeah.
My suggestion was he's got a lot of money. He's made $200 billion since he become president on all manner of shady deals. Yeah, he could become the new super merchant sailor of the world. He could become Carthage and insure his own vessels, and he could become Admiral Bonespur and run the blockade himself.
I like that.
I was going to say, Rahab Bonespur is the last one who should be talking about courage.
You would think so. You have 6 deferments from Vietnam on bone spurs, and you want to talk about lack of courage and guts. He can show up. Admiral Bonespur, buy the fleet, run the blockade, go for it, Bao. You think
he just had a resignation? Yeah, he just had a resignation of one of his top consiglieres, who basically said Netanyahu convinced him to do it.
Yeah, well, that's because his consigliere is a anti-Semite and has been for a long time. He is a nutcase Christian that is an anti-Semite. He's a white supremacist. He was a promoter of the Proud Boys, of the insurrection. That is a really disgusting human being. By the way, he is also being investigated right now by the FBI. But if that's your friend, you don't need enemies. Yes. And the fact of the matter is that Netanyahu is absolutely wrong. He's been wrong about everything for the last at least 5 years. He has been a great liability to Israel, particularly over the destruction of Gaza after 10/7, and then the obliteration of Lebanon, and then his bombings of Syria, and now his second war against Iran. Netanyahu is a disaster for Israel, and he's hated all over the world, and he's caused Israel to be hated all over the world. But Netanyahu, the only way that Netanyahu could have convinced Trump to engage in this war that will be his undoing is if the Mossad confiscated the most incriminating of the Epstein files and was holding him ransom to those files. Well, that would be it. There's no other way that Israel could hold him ransom. And one of the things that Israel would not have thought through, if that is the case, if he played along with Israel because they had him nailed on the Epstein files, and as that 14-year-old girl that has the testimony that she was so badly abused, raped multiple times by Donald Trump. if they have the evidence of that, and that's how they convince Trump, let's just pretend. I don't know this to be true, but that's the only rational way that Israel could have convinced Trump to play along. You know, this idea that AIPAC and the Israeli lobby are the influence, which is what all the little talking heads say on social media, is utterly nonsense. This Donald Trump has taken $200 billion in bribes. Yes. He and his family, $200 billion in the last year. $200 billion in the last year. Israel hasn't spent $1 billion in AIPAC sponsorship of everybody, and so Trump is at least 200 times the entire budget of AIPAC, and so and that's on the other side. So there is a 0% chance that that's the case. So the only chance would be on Epstein. But the problem that they have is that the prophets have all said that Trump, as Rahab, is going to betray Israel. And that the way he's going to betray Israel, they've also been very clear, he's going to give the heart of Israel to the Muslim enemies. And the reason he's going to do that is because the petrodollar is crashing. And with his invasion of Iraq, it's over unless he can convince a couple of those nations, whether it's Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE. He needs at least 2 of those countries to agree to continue the petrodollar when they're all want to bail out of it now, because the other side of the agreement, the United States was supposed to protect them, and the United States abandoned the bases. The bases were destroyed, and now their refinery capability is being destroyed because America is doing that to Iran. So there's no substance to the petrodollar now. Without the petrodollar, America is bankrupt because that's the underpinning of the reserve currency status that funds our debt. And the only thing that Trump can trade them, because he can't trade them security anymore. He can only make the family dictator of one of those Muslim fiefdoms a superhero in the Muslim world by making Israel vulnerable by cutting out its heart to establish a terrorist state in the midst of Israel. That's all he's got to offer. And that's what he will offer. And the only question is, will he offer it in the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 12 months? But that is what he's going to do. And the prophets are very clear about that.
Craig, I have to ask you, as a expert teacher and master of words in the Bikuwrym, how wickedly ironic do you find it that the adopted name, and I call it an adopted name for the Netanyahu family, it means gift of Yah. How ironic is that?
Yeah, they chose that name for themselves. It was exceedingly egotistical. But, you have a lot of people in the history of Israel that chose names that represented the opposite sentiment of their lives.
Yes.
It's really quite common in Israel to do that. But I can tell you that there are very few people in the world that Yahowah hates more than Benjamin Netanyahu. What's amazing, too, is that his name is Benjamin Netanyahu. He is universally supported by the Haredim, and they won't say Yahowah's name.
Right.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
How is that even possible?
Nope.
Or do they know who Nathan was a prophet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who did Nathan talk to?
Dowd.
Oh.
Yeah. And what does Yahowah say about Dowd as it relates to returning king and Messiah?
He's coming back.
Oh, he's the one.
He's coming back, and he is the Messiah. So why in Judaism, with Nathan being the person that Yahowah used to speak to Dowd, and God said, he is my Messiah, and he's my son, and he is your savior, and he is the returning king, are they looking for an unnamed Messiah at an unknown time?
I'll give it to you straight. It's obvious. They hate him.
They do. Both Dowd and Yahowah. They hate them.
That's right.
Yeah, they are absolutely anti-Shemitic.
They are.
Yes.
Now, they can't even figure out that Dabarim 18, the prophet like me, who will come from your midst, they don't even know that speaks of Dowd. When you turn then to the 29th chapter of Bikuwrym, and there's this prophetic announcement of what's going to happen in the last days, where God goes as far as to say that the Israel and the world have returned to the conditions of Sodom and Gomorrah. And as a result of them being Sodom and Gomorrah, brimstone is going to rain down on them again. There's going to be a holocaust of what it would be a nuclear confrontation. And he says, this is what's going to happen. And there's only one person that's going to stand in the way of that. And he is a Nakri. In fact, it has the definite article. It's a real title. He is Ha-Nakri, the observant foreigner. And in the 29th chapter of Deuteronomy, Bikuwrym, it says this is what the world is headed to in the last days, is becoming just like Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's going to encounter fire and brimstone, just like it's a Holocaust, the way he's explaining it. And the one person that stands in the way of that can save you from it is his title is Ha-Nakri, the observant foreigner.
Speaking of Ha-Nakri, I asked a rabbi about that.
Yes.
What it meant.
Yes. What did he say?
No. He said it was a mythological person. Person doesn't exist.
Yahweh's prophecy, which is there, and the whole chapter, the 29th chapter of Bikuwrym, which, by the way, is the Torah, and that is Moshe speaking, inspired by God in the Torah.
Yeah.
A whole chapter of God speaking, God was being pagan and promoting a myth.
Doesn't exist.
And so when Solomon,
but see, Satan doesn't exist in their mind either.
When Solomon gave the Sermon on the Mount at the commencement address to all of Israel, when the home for Yahweh's name was opened, and he spoke of this same individual. He spoke of him like, of course, you know him. He's been introduced already in your Torah. And he's going to speak to you. And when he speaks to you, you need to listen in the last days, because he is your last and best hope. That's the same mythological creature?
I didn't say they were smart.
So would you say that when Yeshaya, Isaiah, over and over and over again brings our attention to the Nakar, this observant foreigner, he was speaking of a mythological creature? What about the Chodar? Is that another mythological creature with the seven spirits of Yahweh? That's quite a myth.
I'm pretty sure that Yahweh's going to treat them as if they were mythological creatures too.
Yeah, but by the same token, that they don't not only do they not give credence to the very people Yahweh says are going to save them, which would be the greater and lesser luminaries and the Ha-Nakri and his Matsah and firstborn Bikuwrym, they don't think there's a Satan. So when Yahweh speaks of the adversary as Ha-Satan, devotes a whole chapter to him in Isaiah 14, talks at length about him in Genesis 3, and Bereshith 3. They don't think he exists either.
No.
They, by the way, don't think Sheol exists.
No.
When Yahweh says that it does. So why do they think Shamaim exists? Or they don't think that exists either. Obviously, they don't think Yahweh exists.
Right.
Well,
I'm on the same wavelength as Letter. I was just she once again has read my mind. I was going to say what the rabbis, they deny it. They say it's mythological. They denigrate it, obfuscate it, because they are petulant, arrogant miscreants who believe that they know. These lizards don't know what they don't know. They'd rather wear phylacteries on the middle of their head, wrap themselves up with leather binders, bob up and down, and promote idiocy.
Here's the truth.
Speaking of idiocy, Rabbinic Judaism right now is based on the arrival of an unknown, unnamed Messiah at an unknown, undesignated time. Can you lay out for me where there is a single prophecy that speaks of the Messiah arriving at an undisclosed time, or just a prophecy about Messiah, since there are prophecies about Ha-Nakri and there are prophecies about the Chodar? Can you tell me where would you find a I'm going to return prophecy on Hamashiach.
I can tell you.
Where?
In the fairy tale they call the Talmud.
Oh, okay.
The
But
Talmud,
what about the Torah? What about the Torah and prophets?
No.
It's non-existent.
No. The only even remote connection you can make is not as a title, because there's no definite article before it, but is in the 9th chapter of Daniel, which we don't even have in the, at least most of it, we don't have in the Dead Sea Scrolls, although we have a copy of Daniel that dates back into the 4th century BCE. So it's really an old copy. But in that case, Gabriel, who we're told is a man, and Gabriel means courageous man and competent man of God, he, speaking for himself as the Mashiach, talks about his role as the Mashiach in fulfilling Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym in 33 CE, giving the exact date that he's going to do so. And so he is the Mashiach, speaking of when he's going to arrive to fulfill Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym.
In first person.
And well, in Daniel, he said, "This is what I'm going to do, and this is the title I'm going to use." And so he did that, and they denied that he did it when he did it. And then he wrote 2 Psalms where he spoke in first person and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to be crucified." 1,000 years before it happened, and 700 years before crucifixion was invented.
Oh, baby, you can't have a false Messiah if you're gonna recognize the real one. Like, come on,
our guy's the star.
It would negate the Bar Kokhba thing. Come on, we can't do that.
Craig, these blind
it would
blind
negate
miscreants,
everything they are.
Yeah, exactly. These blind miscreants didn't even recognize who Gabriel is or who Michael. Going back to Daniel 9.
Yeah, now Michael is a little bit of a challenge because it's Ma, which means to ponder the implications of, Ka, that which resembles and can approximate, can represent, and then El. So it's one who can represent God, and one who is right about God is what Michael means. Now that's a you got to be on your game to take the time to figure that one out. Gabriel is not difficult. Yahowah says that Dowd is Gabor over and over and over again. And the most important prophecies about Dowd, he's always listed as Gabor. Gabor is based upon what Hebrew word? Do you guys know?
Gabar.
Yeah, Gabar. And what does Gabar mean? It means strong man. Strong man. It's
like a warrior.
Capable.
Like a warrior.
Right. Yeah, and when it becomes Gabor, you're dealing with a fighter, a battler, a very courageous, bold, aggressive, resilient man. But
somebody you don't want to meet.
Gabor and Gabor are always a strong man. That's the root of it. It's like when you're dealing with the Zakar, you can't get anything other than man out of Zakar. So it's a memorable man. It's like saying I don't know the meaning of Adam. When if you don't know the meaning of Gabor, and Gabor El would mean the most courageous and capable man of God. And when Daniel sees him both times, he says, "Oh, by the way, he's an ish, he's a man." Twice he says he's a man, and so you can't figure that out. And you're supposed to be smart.
Whoa! We're still talking about the same people who wrote the Book of Enoch. Yeah, come on. Really?
I mean, Enoch,
you're going to ask these people stupid questions?
Such an obvious
they're idiots.
And earlier today, I shared, and I'll read the translation in a future program, but I showed something that I think is really earth-shattering. I would say that it's up there in the top insights that we have deduced along the way. I came to the conclusion independently that Dowd and Adam were one and the same soul. That Adam's soul was Dowd, and Dowd's soul is Adam. And I did so for 2 reasons. One was that God makes it very clear that Dowd is his Bikuwrym. Bikuwrym means what, guys?
Firstborn.
Firstborn. And it's masculine, so it's firstborn son. So that means that Dowd is Yahweh's firstborn son. He says that Dowd is my Bikuwrym, my firstborn son. Wait a minute, but Dowd was like the 8th kid of a jerk and an unknown, horrible woman and a jerk of a man when he found him at that time. So obviously he was not Yahowah's firstborn son when he found him as the 8-year-old shepherd boy, was he?
No.
Couldn't be. It doesn't fit. So is there anybody that Yahowah created himself, no other mother and father, that he created himself, and that he literally breathed his nefesh and nesama, soul and conscience, into him? Is there that he said that I made him like me, which would be I am his father, he'd be my son? Is there anybody that comes to mind that fits that bill?
Adam.
Captain Obvious.
Yeah, and it's obvious, right? So that was my first clue. I said, well, I'm going to go with that. That is good enough for me to say, you figured that one out. Good for you. I don't know why anybody else couldn't have figured out the last 6,000 years, but you got that one right. By the way, you're not the first person to figure it out. Chinook did, but still, it's impressive. All right. So the next thing I figured out is that what was Adam's problem? Didn't he get to be lethargic?
Yeah.
Didn't he stop paying attention to what God was saying? Didn't he not think things through so that he could have an intelligent conversation with God? Did he stop working and making a contribution? And did he show at the end that he was not reliable?
Yep.
Yeah.
And did he blame everybody but himself for his own poor choices?
Absolutely.
Do you know anybody else that did that?
Yeah.
Dowd.
Same character.
Dowd over the Bathsheba affair. He was sleeping during the day as the rest of his countrymen were out fighting a war. He'd sent them off to fight, and yet he was lounging around in bed during the day. During the evening, he became a voyeur. He was drinking himself into a stupor. He spied on a married woman. He connived to get her in bed. He impregnated her, and then he went over this whole scheme to take advantage of her husband and murdered him. And compromised his lead general. And then when it all happened, and God says that was really, in fact, God wasn't speaking directly to him at that point. He had Nathan tell a story that's just horrendous of how bad a person could be, how miserable a person who has everything could be to another human being. And don't say, "Oh God, what a terrible person! What a terrible story! You ought to kill that person." And Nathan said, "You are that person."
There you go.
So didn't Dowd? And then Dowd in the 51st Psalm, he is blaming God for everything that he did. So the personality fit, and I said, "Oh man, Dowd's Adam." And then yesterday, I'm doing a program on the Ocean Studio, and I'm reading when Yahowah introduces Dowd for the first time. The very first thing he says about Dowd is that he is Adam, and he uses Adam plus own with a yod at the end of it. So, are you familiar with the term? How about Elion?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, everything.
Elion, right? El meaning God.
God.
Own meaning all things pertaining to.
Everything pertaining to.
And the yod here is in the middle of the word, so it would be all things pertaining to the influence of the hand of Yah. You ever heard of a term called how about Shabbaton?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all things
contains all pertaining to the Shabbat. You ever heard of Zikaron?
Sure.
Memorable man.
All things pertaining to the most memorable of men. Mm-hmm. Right? So the own means all things pertaining to. Adam means Adam. So all things pertaining to Adam is who God announced Dowd was. And then he puts the Y at the end of it, which is you've heard Adonai, right?
Yeah.
Mine.
Yeah. That means my. And so it's my Adam, my man, and all things pertaining to my man. That's what he called Dowd.
All things pertaining to my man.
All things pertaining to my man.
So for those of you
Adam.
out there who portray Dowd as a redheaded Viking, stop it.
Stop it. No.
Stop it.
Mm-mm. And the only other person that that is used, as you found out, Kevin, is whom?
Esau.
And isn't Esau the firstborn of Yishak?
Yep.
Yes.
Shouldn't he have been given the inheritance?
Yes.
Yep.
but it was cheated from him by his own mother, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and his conniving brother. And
yeah, it's
so
in the introduction. Whenever it's the first thing when Dowd shows up, go get the kid. He shows up there at Shamuel. It is it's in his introduction. I don't mean
it is. It's the first, not just in the introduction. It's the first thing he says, and then you turn to the only other place it had been used was to speak of Esau, and then because God always comes full circle, who is the man that Isaiah said is going to save many?
Man from Edom.
The man from Edom. Isn't Edom based on Esau? And when Dowd falls on his face relative to positioning the Ark of the Covenant where it has to be in Jerusalem for him when he returns to anoint the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant, and we have an idiot interferes with the bull that is relocating it, and Yahweh says, "No, I'm going to kill you for that. That's unforgivable." And Dowd has a conniption fit. And Yahweh said, "Okay, well, I'll take it from here." And who does he give the Ark of the Covenant to?
Obed-Edom.
Obed-Edom.
You know what Obed-Edom means? It's one of Yahweh's many titles.
It means the servant of Edom.
It means to work for man. Obed-Edom means to work for man. And he's the one who repositions the Ark of the Covenant, isn't he?
Yes. Well, we're certainly not doing this for ourselves.
So
that's for sure.
Put the pieces together. Edom is going to reconcile the broken family, isn't he?
He will. But what gets really interesting, Craig, and you've recently disclosed this, is Yah makes it clear that the number 8 is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk about Yishay and the rejects. And then
8 son, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know how many lives I will have, how many deployments I'll have by the time it's all done? 8. And Leah will have 8 because every time I go, I have made a deal with Yahweh, she comes with me. I have a good taste. I say, okay, I like that one. A good woman's hard to find, I like that one. That one works for me. I'll do this, but I get that one. But of course, one of the funniest events of all time is Leah sitting out there. She's got no idea who Yahweh is, no idea who God is. She's just saying, I'm floundering all over the place. I've tried every imaginable cult. I've gone to the great pupa in India even to learn. Yoga.
Sat my bony butt on ashram floors.
Oh yeah, ashram floors. So there you are. She's tried them all, and she finally says, "Okay, God, I went to the rabbis and they put their hand up my skirt, so I know that's not where I'm going to find you." And I know my people are just being skunks here. So.
And there was no way in hell I was ever going to be a Christian.
Right. So God,
or a Muslim.
I know you exist, but obviously I'm not going to find you through my people. I've read that book, but the end of it completely contradicts the beginning of it, so I don't get it. How can that your Bible be from you when the end of it does nothing but contradict the beginning of it? So this is not working for me. You got any advice? I'm happy to know you. I'd like to know you. But so you're having the whole conversation with God. You're pretty desperate at that point.
Yeah.
And so God just clearly, as he has spoken to me at times, he said, "What to you?"
I had a dream, and in the dream, it was a different quality of dream from typical dreams. It had a different feeling to it altogether. And in the dream, I was told to go ask Ruth.
Did you know at the time that you were Ruth?
I didn't even know who Ruth was. Are you kidding me? I was like, Ruth who? Ruth, wait, Bible Ruth? Like I've heard stories and cartoons on, Saturday morning cartoon. I had no idea.
So as we're playing all this through and we're reading the 31st Mashal and trying to frame it all in, we find Dowd constantly, because who's this mother talking to Dowd? Because Dowd hated his mother, called his mother a whore. So who is this mother that is telling Dowd to sober up, start treating women with respect, recognize that you are the very son of God and that you have responsibility as king, and you need to get your act together. And I'm going to help dress you up because you're looking really, really sloppy at the moment. And it says that he's just loving this mother. And he says that she is Ashar. She is the ultimate blessing and calls it the greatest of all women. And so who is this person? Then you read Dowd saying, God, you saved me. and I want to thank you for sending your Amah to me. That got me out of my funk and told me who I was, so that you literally restored a relationship with me through this your Amah, your productive mother. Mm-hmm. And so we go back to Ruth. So where is that? I've read that Amah thing. Where do we find that? So Ruth, speaking to Boaz, and she has maneuvered herself into this position. Ruth knew how to play. She went to Bethlehem, and when she went to Bethlehem, the honker in Bethlehem, the guy that owned Bethlehem, he was the unofficial mayor of Bethlehem, was a fellow named Boaz. He was 80 at the time. Ruth was 40, and he owned all the fields, and he was a righteous dude. And Ruth says, I think I'm going to go one of the corner of this field. He's Torah observant. He knows that I can go and harvest a corner of the field. And I'm going to bring all the produce back to you, Naomi, who had left Bethlehem and came back, and she was beloved. I says, I'll be there. And my guess is he'll notice me. Sure enough, he did. He caught his eye for sure. And she goes back and she talks about all she can do. And then when Boaz sees her, he says, let me introduce who I said. He said, yeah, I know who you are. Everybody knows who you are. You took care of Naomi. You're a good woman. We appreciate you for what you did for her, and we appreciate you for what you said, that your people are my people. Your God is my God. Where you go, I will go. Yeah, you don't need to tell me who you are. I know who you are. So they had another encounter because she was playing this, and they had another encounter. And the first thing we learn is that there's a thing with a blankie. That do you know why the blankie is told in that story where they're really getting to know each other? Why is there a story with a blankie? You need to cover me up and blankie. You need to cover. Do some covering with the corner of your blankie here, cloak or whatever it was. Why is that? You know another story that could have been the same two characters, same man and woman, and there was a story of probably some partying one night, a little extra wine, maybe a little hanky panky, husband and wife having some fun, and one of the kids stumbled in and said, "Oh, Dad, you forgot to cover up." Yeah, are you familiar with a story like that?
Noah.
Yeah, Noah, the man who saved Nasalma man. The entire experience with humankind today is a result of Noah literally saved Nasalma man. God was going to, he said, I regret creating Nasalma man. I'm going to wipe him out. Yeah. I'm done with this whole thing. I made a terrible mistake. And then he inserted Noah. Noah knew Yahowah really well. They had a history together, baby. And Noah literally saved Nasalma man. Without him, there is no Nasalma man. And so that whole story about Noah and the exposure, well, it's repeated in the story of Ruth and Boaz. And so they're having a little conversation, and he says, who are you again? It's a night that she was hanging out, I think, in one of the barns or one of the
No, she was hanging out. They were on the threshing floor.
Oh yeah, on the threshing floor. Yeah. Okay, so they're on the threshing floor. And by the way, what city do you think they were in?
Jerusalem?
No.
Bethlehem.
No. Bethlehem. Bethlehem's where they are. Where did the kinsman redeemer come? Okay, we're gonna have the story. So she says, I am Ruth. By the way, Ruth means that I'm a shepherdess. That's what Leah did after she became a seamstress, which is the 31st mashal. She became a shepherdess and says, I'm a shepherdess. And I am your Amah. Oh, wait a minute. They weren't married. They weren't no hanky-panky at this point. I'm your Amah. I'm your productive mother. And she says twice, I'm your Amah. Yeah. Which is this term that now applies to Leah. I am your Amah, and I'm going to deliver to you, Boaz, the kinsman redeemer. So who do you think that Dowd's mother and father were when Dowd was born the old-fashioned way? The dad having fun with mom. Mom gets pregnant. Mom delivers, water breaks. That's, if you read I think it's the 12th chapter or 9th chapter, right in the beginning of the 22nd Mizmowr, Dowd interrupts the whole play and said, okay, Dad got my mom pregnant, and my mom, she delivered me, and the water broke, and there I was, and then I snuggled against her breast. Kind of nice experience after the end of the horrible previous life with a whore as a mother and an absentee father. Rips the whole thing. So who do you think that mom and dad were delivering the kinsman redeemer in Bethlehem?
Well, our mom and dad?
Boaz.
Yeah, Ruth and Boaz.
Ruth and
Who
Boaz.
was it that delivered the 89th Mizmowr to you?
Yeah, absolutely. The 89th Mizmowr was delivered to save Dowd from himself and to restore the relationship with Yahowah so that he could go on to fulfill Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym. But Yahowah was not, after the whole Bathsheba thing, Yahowah said, okay, kid, you did a nice job of coming back and the relationship's restored, like what you wrote, like what you've committed to do. Now you're on your game again. Do you think he just said, we'll just roll the dice again. I'll have you born to
just anybody?
Any Chaim and
Y'all schmoll.
any schmo out there, and figure it out on your own. And I hope to see you at Pesach. No. Do you think there's any chance of that after that episode? None. No. And so, he was raised protected by his father.
Would you leave it to chance?
No, and his father and mother loved him, and they saw it through all the way, and including Dad being there with him all the way through the crucifixion and the journey into Sheol. We were never apart, and Mom was there at least up to that point, and those idiots that were now perceived as being disciples. Shimon,
they were his brothers.
Shimon, Jacob, Yahukanan. Yeah, they were his brothers.
They were his brothers.
Yep. The story is just so powerful when you put the pieces together and figure out why God would do it this way. It's first, we now know from Dowd that absolutely unequivocally he's inserted into the timeline 4 times. He's already been inserted 3 times. And that we know that Elia has at least 2, and it's actually more than that with Elia, but at least 2. We're told specifically that's the case. So why would God stop with just those 2, particularly when he tells his story that it all revolves around the 2 luminaries? So you think the other luminary is a one-shot wonder? No.
Craig, how about the term the first time it was used, Dowdy?
Yeah, Dowdy, that's an interesting thing. You bringing it up, so you probably talked to Leah, because most people don't know this. Are you familiar with the term Dowdy? Any one of you know the term? Leah, you don't get to answer because you're the
all right.
You're the one that brought this to my attention. I hadn't even noticed it. And Jeff, you probably heard it from Leah, didn't you?
Actually, I heard it after you disclosed it. I didn't discuss this with Leah, but it just struck me as just so magnificent.
I don't keep secrets. Yeah. I don't keep secrets very well.
No.
Are you familiar? Everybody's familiar with the infighting between Leah and Rachel, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Legendary.
Yes. And you know that Leah's firstborn, because Rachel was barren initially, that Leah's firstborn found something that he referred to as, everybody thinks it's a mandrake. Whether it was a mandrake or not, I don't know. You know what they were arguing over? That they were fighting to do this for the benefit of getting Jacob's attention so they could deliver another son. They were fighting over Dowdy.
Yeah.
What does Dowdy mean? It means my beloved.
My beloved.
It's
My
Dowd.
beloved.
It's Deleth. That's Dowd's name plus the yod at the end of it, which means my beloved. They were fighting over my beloved, and nobody even notices it because they think they were fighting over mandrakes.
Mm-hmm.
They're fighting over Dowdy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? You think there's a chance that maybe that was significant, or that when Moshe went AWOL and said, God, you need to kill me because no one can do this job, I quit. And you got two people prophesying, and God says, don't worry about it. I've got a couple of guys. They'll take it from here. And one of them was named Dowd, which means God's beloved, God's Dowd.
Mhm.
And the other one's named My Dowd.
No.
I mean, he gave us every clue. Well, the rabbi's supposed to be bright.
They're not.
They've written, 10,000 books on the Torah, and how did they miss all of this?
They're good at being bad and wrong.
There you go.
Well,
Now
yeah,
we
well,
have
it's
the
truth.
answer.
They're
Yeah.
great at being
Well, control.
wrong.
That's what they really
Yeah.
want: control and
Yeah,
power
good.
and money.
Yeah. When Dowd gave the exact date that he was going to arrive to fulfill Chag Matzah, and he gave it, and he was right to the date, and it was the starting line was 444 BC, the ending line was 33 CE, and it was the completion date of Chag Matzah in 33 CE that he gave as the date, and it's clear why over all this time would rabbis and the Jewish people have a calendar that's 197 years off when God gave us the fulcrum of his calendar. It's I'm going to fulfill in the fourth day, which is year 4000 Yah, in 33 CE, I'm going to fulfill Chag Matzah. And then he did it. Not only said 500 years in advance, I'm going to do it, but he actually did it on those dates. And you can't figure out your calendar that 33 CE is your 4000 Yah? When Yahowah tells you in the opening of your Torah that, oh, by the way, the greater and lesser luminaries are going to be volunteers to fulfill and serve as signs for the Mow'ed, and you've got the greatest of the luminaries telling you, I'm going to do it in 33 CE, and you can't figure it out that 2033 would be your 6000 Yah, and you're 197 years off?
Well, because the goddamn Rambam said so, and it's the same thing as you've heard it written before, but I, Paul, say. You've heard it written in Torah, but I, Rambam, say. It's no different.
Did the Rambam come up with his timeline based upon the year that Adam and Chawah were kicked out of Eden, which is when the timeline would begin, or did he come up with a different date for the beginning of his timeline?
He couldn't do his own math if he wanted
The
to.
Rambam was obsessed with the number 19 because a lot of individuals don't know that Rambam spent some time being a Muslim.
Yes,
he did.
And the number 19
ding, ding.
is the magic number in Islam. No, what he said that his year 0 was the year that Yahowah created. No, I didn't mention Yahweh's name. Year 0 was when Hashem created the universe. He's off by 14 billion years. So when you realize that no, the universe was not created 6,000 years ago, why would you believe that anything else he said? We've already proven that 6 24-hour days of creation, when compared to the microwave cosmic background, it was stretched 10 to the 12th power. That 14 billion years is 6 24-hour days. It's still 14 billion years from our way of looking at things, our time going backwards, but it is exactly 6 24-hour days. He got wrong the starting point, and he was only wrong by 14 billion years.
Well, now you know where
That's
Christians
close enough
get
for
their
government.
weird ideas from.
Yeah, and you know what the chapter that this appears in, you know what it's called? Sanctification of the Moon.
Oh, wow.
Sounds pretty Islamic to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the boys, the rabbis just can't get out of their own shadow. I mean, the single, you talked about Rambam being a Muslim, and he was.
They have their own feasts. They have their own.
Yes.
They have their own
Purim,
God.
they just scheduled Purim.
They have their own God. They have their own Messiah. They have their own banner.
Mm-hmm. They have their own symbol.
They have their own priests.
They have their own menorah.
Yeah, that's right.
They have their own God.
And they're happy like that.
Yeah,
Leave
they have
them
their own
alone.
God, their own Torah, their own everything.
Leave them alone.
But they have nothing to do with Yahowah.
Nope.
Completely estranged from Yahowah. There was another correlation, though, much earlier than just the Rambam being a Muslim and working for Saladin. And that is that without the rabbis, there is no Islam.
Nope.
There's no Allah.
Nope.
There's no Quran.
No Jesus either.
because the rabbis sold the Talmud recitals to Muhammad that he attributed to Allah to make Allah appear like a god and the Quran appear like a religious book. They literally sold them to him. Rabbis are the only reason that Islam exists today. And rabbis are the only reason that Christianity exists today, because Paul was a rabbi.
That's right.
And he created the whole myth of Jesus. And the rest of the rabbis were so screwed up that they didn't recognize that Dowd said, no, I'm going to come on this date and I'm going to be the one who fulfills that. And there wasn't a single rabbi smart enough to recognize it. And then 100 years later, on the Yobel year, Rabbi Akiba, the father of Rabbinic Judaism, voiced a false Messiah. And so the father of your religion promoted a false Messiah that caused the diaspora.
If I may, I don't think that they were stupid enough. No, I don't think that is at all what happened. I think they abjectly rejected him, just period, and came up with their own.
Yeah,
they rejected him.
They rejected Yahowah, and so they rejected Yahowah's son.
Yes.
And they rejected Yahowah's Mow'ed, his annual feast. And you can't say, well, they celebrate Passover. No, they don't. Passover is just the first day of Matsah, and they do not celebrate Matsah. It's Chag Matsah is the time. It's a 7-day celebration, just like it's Chag Sukkah. The Towrah, Bikuwrym, and Sukkah are one celebration. They're all integrated. And Chag Matzah is one integrated celebration of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikuwrym. In fact, Pesach without Matzah is counterproductive. It's a guaranteed eternity in Sheol because you become immortal, but still with your guilt. And so, no, they don't celebrate Passover. They
Do you know how many Jewish feasts, the rabbinical feasts, there are per year?
How many?
There's well over 15.
Yeah, there are.
Wow.
And Yahweh's Torah, there are 7.
Yeah. They just celebrated Purim. That's based upon the book of Esther, right? That book is historically invalid. In fact, it's so inaccurate, it's impossible that the whole thing is a lie. There's no credibility whatsoever to the story, and there's absolute proof the story is not true. And yet they have a festival of Purim. Does Yahowah ever mention Purim?
No.
And then their other big holiday is Hanukkah. That was a civil war between Jews.
Yep.
Does Yahowah ever mention a Hanukkah?
No.
Do you think that if Hanukkah and Purim were supposed to be important holidays, do you think Yahowah might have mentioned them in the Torah?
I think so.
Once or twice.
Everything that's important, Yahowah mentions.
Yes, in the Torah.
Times.
Yes, in the Torah.
Yes, but they have their own.
Well, they have replacement Torah. They call it a Talmud, but they call their Talmud the
Torah.
oral Torah. And so they refer to their dribble as if it was a Torah. And, Jews, you have been feasted upon by these rabbis. They created your two most formidable foes, Christianity and Islam. They created the religion that keeps you the actual Messiah.
And do you know what they train us to tell others, outsiders, about our feasts? Oh, just tell them they tried to kill us. We survived. Let's eat. Let me tell you something. This time around, it's not going to be like that.
No, and they don't have any clue.
This time around, you will die in the stupid things that you think that you know and you don't.
Yeah, they always talk about Passover being a 7-day holiday. No, it's the first day of Matsah, which is a 7-day observation. And then they speak of Passover as the time they were liberated from Egypt. Of course, it's not Egypt, it's Mitzrayim, which has an important meaning. In fact, it has Sar in the middle of it, and Sar speaks of the time of trouble. And so, no, they had a nice meal on Passover, put the blood of the Passover lamb on the doorway as a sign that they would be passed over, and that death took place everywhere. So it was the doorway to life, is what Passover was. But where did they go? He says, the rabbis say that they were liberated and freed from slavery in Egypt on Passover. I beg to differ.
In the house and went to bed.
They spent the in fact, Yahowah said, do not go out of your houses. Do not
or
do
you'll
that.
Die.
So they didn't go anywhere on Passover. Get a clue. They left religious and political corruption on what day, Will?
Matzah.
So what is Matzah all about? Removal of what?
Filth.
Yeah, religious and political corruption, isn't it? And so they left religious and political corruption on Matsah. Shouldn't that have been a clue?
Yeah. I have a question now.
Yeah.
I understand if you're religious and you're trying to capture the flock, you give them some other kind of religion or whatever. But how do you get so brave that a couple of days after that, after Chug Matsah starts, and you're building the golden calf? My God, how brave how stupid.
Well, talk about stupid. When
that was right up the hill.
Yeah, Moshe. Yahweh gets him finally to go back, and he's reluctant. He finally goes back, and he has his first encounter with Pharaoh, and Pharaoh mocks him and said, "I don't know this Yahweh from Adam, and I'm just annoyed, so I'm going to make the work of the Hebrews even more egregious. They're going to have to go get their own straw, but yet the quotas are going to remain the same and make their work miserable." So Moshe, rather than saying, "Yeah, you told me it was going to be rough and that he was going to be tough and that we would have to go through a series of plagues and signs to get him to relent. I know you told me this was going to happen." He didn't say that at all. He just went to Yahweh and said, "You're a failure." Yeah, I did. I came and did what you want me to do, and he's not listening. And it's all you have done. All you have accomplished so far is to make life even more miserable for these people. You're a failure. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. Did you know that Moshe had that breakdown before the signs even began?
Eliah wanted to ask God to kill him also.
Elia or Yeshaya?
Eliah asked God to kill him.
Yeah, Moshe asked God to kill him.
And the reason he gave,
job,
reason he gave was the people.
Yeah,
that's the reason.
And so the children of Israel, they finally are freed. Yippee! We're here we go, and they got all the way to Nuiba Beach at the crossing
not very far
of the Red Sea. Yeah, we're not very far. We're still not even out of Egypt. We're on the Nuiba Beach, the crossing of the Red Sea, and the Egyptian army is coming after them. And so their answer wasn't okay. It's been pretty miraculous so far. A lot of miracles. Here we are. We're leaving with a wealth of Mitzrayim. They gave it all to us before we left, and the plagues and the signs were magnificent. And we were under a genocidal regime, and here we are. Hey, wow! Look at us. What did they do? They said, "Why'd you bring us out here for nothing? We could have died in Egypt. We want to go back to Egypt now." That's what they said.
I prefer the leaks in Egypt.
Yeah, and then Moshe said, "No, don't say that. Don't say that." And he keeps on trying to talk them into, cheering them up. And you know what Yahweh said? "Why are you talking to these idiots? Why are you talking to these idiots? Would you just part the damn water? Lift your staff, part the damn water. We're running out of time here, pal. Stop talking and act." Yeah, the clock's ticking. You see them coming? What do you want me to do? I'm going to call for fire on their way. I'll slow them down a little bit. But come on, pal. You are not going to win the favor of these Malcreants. It's just not going to happen. They're belligerent. Stop it already. Stop talking. Wave your staff. Part the water. We'll go from here. And yeah, you're right. They get across on the other side. What's the first thing they do? They build a damn golden calf and worshipped it. And it was Aaron that was leading it. What do you?
What's wrong with him?
Yeah, what's wrong with you? I give you all of this gold so that we'll be able to do special things with it when you get into the land. The first thing you do is you create a golden calf to worship. You guys are absolutely obnoxious. And Moshe came down, he broke the damn tablets.
I would have too.
Yeah,
I don't blame you for that.
Yeah, I don't hold that against him. I'm not even mad that he struck the rocky crag at the end. Yahweh didn't like it much, but at this point, you've been beaten so many times. What's one more strike? But this is the story, and the story of that 40 years Exodus. I mean, there are virtually no high points. It is just low points. When you were translating it, JB, did you ever find much of a point and say, wow, that's really impressive. Boy, the children of Israel, they are listening to God. They're doing the right thing. No. It's a story of what not to do.
Yeah.
The fact that Jews, dress their Torah up as a whore and put it inside of the dingle balls and, all of the fancy stuff and fondle it and kiss it. And it's because you don't want to read it if you're a Jew. All it tells you is you are really rotten. You've antagonized God and he wants nothing to do with you. The only reason he is facilitated the small percentage of you getting into the promised land after he's killed all of those who were religious and all of those who were belligerent as spies, and the ones that believed them, everybody over the age of 20, is because he made a promise to Abraham and he's going to honor his promise. So he took you kicking and screaming into the promised land. But he wanted nothing to do with it. He burned up everything around you. He was so mad. I've been reading, because I'm translating every reference to the relationship between the sun and the moon, and there's one that's very profound in Yahowah 13. In Yahowah 13, there's 7 or 8 statements in a row that God says, I am so disgusted that I'm going to annihilate people. I'm going to conduct an extermination event. There'll be very few people that are going to survive this. I'm going to wipe out mortal man. And I'm going to do it because I'm so disappointed. And what they have done to trash my land and my people, I'm just going to conduct an extermination event. And I'm going to do it because I'm so disappointed. And it's repeated over and over and over and over and over
I
again.
Share Yahweh's sentiment. It's very disappointing.
Yeah. So it's really a profound place we find ourselves. So now that we're an hour into our program, which is pretty good for us for the chit chat portion of our program, let's turn to the meat of our program, which was going to be advancing into more of the 89th Mizmowr. The 89th Mizmowr has it's 3 sections.
Yeah.
The first section is Ethan Haj Rocky, the perpetually deployed and prepared one. He writes the first section of it, and he talks about his relationship with Dowd, his relationship with Yahowah, some prophetic things that are going to happen. Ultimately, at the end, the demise of Rahab, so that when Rahab's gone, it's appropriate for Dowd to return with Yahowah. And so he's setting up what he knows about Yahowah. He knows Yahowah pretty well. At this point, he's 2,400 years old. So he spent a lot of that time with Yahowah. And so he knows him pretty well. And he talks about Yahowah's qualifications as God. And that's the first third of it. And the next third of it is Yahowah saying, that's my kid, talking about Dowd. He's my son. I'm his father. He is all things pertaining to the influence of God. He is the king now and forevermore. He's going to return as brilliant as the sun. And he is going to return and be forever associated with the moon. And he is my Messiah. I have personally anointed him. He is the one who literally conceived or established is the right term. He's the one that established the covenant. I literally cut the covenant, made it possible for the covenant to exist because of Dowd. And he's the only one through whom I've made these promises. He is my promised one. He is my chosen one. So the middle third is God saying Dowd is the most important man of all. He is the man. He is my man. He is my son. He is your savior. He is your king. He is the Messiah. He's everything that they gave to pretend Jesus. It's pretty remarkable. The final third is about God saying, you reprehensible scum. I've told you all of these things about my beloved son and our relationship and all we're going to accomplish together. And you skunks, you had the just despicable gall to discount him, to rob him of all of these things that I have said about him. And for that, you are done. You have destroyed your relationship with me. That's the final third. And that's where we are. We're in that final third. And this is, but now you yourselves have become stagnant and rancid, foul and loathsome. For having refused to accept, and you have actually pushed aside, even rejecting and spurning, disassociating from, by repudiating on your own initiative, while trying to get rid of, while presumptively passing over your Messiah. 8939.
So Leah was right.
Over and over. You're rancid because of this. You're loathsome because of this, because you refused, you pushed aside, you would not accept. You rejected, you spurned, you repudiated. You abar, basis of Passover. You passed over.
That's right.
Boom, boom, boom. Boom. You're Messiah. So if you're a Jew and you read this, what did you do? Why did you do this? You passed over your Messiah. That means your Messiah was not Bar Kokhba. That means your Messiah is Dowd, because he's the one who is stated over and over by name in this Mizmor. You passed over Dowd as your Messiah. Is there anybody in Judaism that credits Dowd with being the Messiah?
No. Hell no.
No.
So there it is, kids. We made it make sense.
Yeah.
This is the reason why Jews are so hated today. They are not under the protection of Yahowah.
No.
They don't know him, and he does not know them.
Yeah, he's repudiating it. He says, you passed over your Messiah. So if you're reading this as Jew, Jews are literate. Hebrew is their first language.
You'd think.
Most of them speak English as their first language, but many of them speak both Hebrew and English. They can read this. How do they deal with it?
They don't. It's simple. They don't.
There's just no excuse for that sort of thing. And then God's not done. When God gets a burr in his craw, he doesn't just spit it out and say, well, that was irritating. Let's go on to the next subject. No, he doubles and triples down. He wants to make certain that you get the message. So here's what he said next. You have repudiated and renounced the covenant with your co-worker. So by disassociating from Dowd, by rejecting Dowd as the Messiah, you've repudiated the covenant with your co-worker. That means there's a direct connection, and God's already made it. He said that in his first statement about Dowd, that Dowd established the covenant, that Yahowah established the covenant through Dowd.
That's right.
And now what he's saying is that because you've repudiated and refused to recognize and accept your Messiah, that you've also repudiated and renounced the covenant. And the reason for that is, boys and girls, you can't be part of the covenant unless you recognize what Dowd and Yahowah have achieved together. If you don't recognize what Yahowah and Dowd have received together, you cannot be part of the covenant. Because it was through Dowd that Yahowah fulfilled Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym.
Yeah.
It was through Dowd that Yahowah established the covenant. And so if you don't know how Dowd and Yahowah worked, and therefore the intent of Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym, and what Dowd did in 33 CE, you can't be part of the covenant. So on a 1 to 10 scale, I would think that first statement, okay, you don't recognize your Messiah, that's bad on you. But you've repudiated the covenant as a result of that. Will, I mean, what do you say to that?
It's devastating.
It's very logical. It's if this, then that.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's Psalm 89 is one that I read quite frequently. And you're right. This is the part where, there's a buildup in the Psalm, but then that last third, Yahowah drops a real hammer, and it is just really poignant. The way he just brings this to the forefront that, you have repudiated the essence of your Messiah. You've cast it down. You've torn down his sheepfolds and all of its walls. Like, it just kind of reciting the damage that you've done. Do you understand the consequence of rejecting Dowd? It unravels the entire covenant. There is no covenant. Nothing was fulfilled.
There is none. God said, I established the covenant. I established the covenant through Dowd, which means that if you repudiate Dowd, you're repudiating the covenant. And if you repudiate the covenant, there is no salvation. The only way we approach God is the way that he established through Abraham and through Dowd.
Yeah, Yahweh's plan is all about Dowd. And if you're not on board with that, it's not going to make any sense to you, and you're not going to advance with Yahweh at all.
You could drop an anvil on their head, and I've done it before.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't make a difference.
I would say that
the religious and cultural traditions that we have lived with for 1,000 years is so pervasive.
Everything was
so vile. Mm-hmm. To this day, I still look for blood in my eggs. It's hard to stop doing
a million
crazy
lies.
things.
A million lies.
We're absolutely neurotic.
One glimmer of truth.
That's right.
And there is no relationship with Yahowah apart from the covenant.
No.
And there is no covenant without Dowd. That's why, by the way, this 89th Mizmowr is so important, because without the 89th Mizmowr, the relationship with Yahowah and Dowd is not restored. And if that relationship's not restored, there's no fulfillment of Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym. And no Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym, no covenant.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's why the story of Ethan Ha's Rocky isn't casual.
Not at all.
So you have repudiated and renounced the covenant with your coworker, which is just God just rubbing it in their face. So, this Jesus Christ myth, that's not true. And yet your Messiah is your coworker. He's one of yours. He's your Messiah, and you can't even accept your Messiah. I told you who your Messiah was. I told you I anointed Dowd to be your Messiah. And you're looking at Donald Trump as your Messiah. Who's Satan? Are you out of your minds? Well, obviously you are. It says you have dishonored and defiled his dedication and his unique standing, even his crown, throughout the land and the earth. You've dishonored Dowd. And don't tell me, oh no, we fly a flag and we have that Star of David. That's our God. That's the shield of David.
Horseshit.
That piece of crap was invented by rabbis, and I think it was the 15th century, I guess, 1400s. There was a rabbinical community and the Ukraine where Haredi Judaism was born in the Ukraine, and not in Israel. There is no correlation whatsoever with God. It was created in Ukraine. It's the most recent of the major religions. It's not the oldest. And it was one of the rabbis I think it was the 15th century, that wanted to be in a parade.
Yep.
And they said, if we're in a parade, we need to have a flag.
We need a banner.
And I want to have you to approve, King, not God. I want you to approve a symbol for us to put on that. And I don't know where they found it. They found it in the Zohar or in ancient pagan customs, or just think, well, if we have one of these, then it's excited. That's the number of man. We're the men. We're the man. We'll do a six-sided star. That'll be good. We'll call it the Star of David. So it's has some legitimacy.
It's the Star of Bar Kokhba.
Yeah, the Star of Bar Kokhba.
The star of their God.
Pretty sad, but that's how it was born. And when it metastasized to be the symbol that Jews were harassed, put in and ghettos, and then marched off into concentration camps during the Holocaust, why would you choose the sign that 6 million of you were murdered under as your sign? Are you Stockholm children? Is there you
It's
that
going to
warped
be the
that you would
same.
pick
It's
that you-
going to be the same banner that 2/3 of us will die under.
Yeah, that you would
Think
pick
about that,
the
Israel.
symbol that the Nazis picked to exterminate you, and that's going to be your sign. I mean, I guess you could pick a sign from the devil, and that would be every bit as good, right? This is stunning. Says you've dishonored, you've defiled. His dedication. Dowd was uniquely dedicated, and it takes some serious dedication. First of all, to fight to defend Israel, which he did. He fought 66 battles, won them all. Established a united Israel when Israel was on the cusp of being overrun by the damn Philistines, and unified the 12 tribes, and then took Jerusalem, made it the capital of Israel. The city of Dowd, built the city of Dowd, acquired the Temple Mount, cleared it, made it ready for the home for Yahweh's name to be built, purchased all of the raw materials for it, and then wrote about how he would fulfill Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym at the end of his life. A pretty extraordinary guy.
Bequeathed it to his child, and guess what?
Yeah.
He lost it all.
For you, he volunteered to be crucified. That's uniquely dedicated, wouldn't you say?
Mm.
For you, he volunteered to go into hell carrying your guilt. But yet you've thrown his standing and his crown to the ground. It's pretty condemning. So when Dowd is disrespected, so are the Mow'ed, especially those that he fulfilled, and the covenant, of course, that he enabled. When Dowd is dishonored, the land to which he was devoted suffers. And that's truly amazing about, at least I think is amazing about all of this, is that Dowd served Yisrael and Yehudim, making their rejection of his sacrifice even more bizarre. Is the greatest gift ever offered. And they tossed it in the trash. No one stood taller. So they cut him down to their size, crippling themselves in the process. Yahweh's point is that there is an inseparable connection between the Messiah Dowd and the covenant family. And this is because the Bereth was karat with Dowd when he fulfilled Pesach, Matsah, Bikuwrym in 33 CE, year 4000 Yah. There is no other approach to God, no other way into heaven. So what I say I would not understand. I mean, I'm clueless as to understand, and I don't think Yahweh does either.
No.
Is with these conditions of the covenant so liberating, so uplifting, so beneficial, so enriching and empowering, and with him proving that his promises are reliable, why would you disavow and replace what Dowd is offering through his chosen Messiah?
I'll make it even easier. Even easier. Take the rabbi's 20-something feast, chuck him out the door, trade him in for Yahweh's name and his 7 feasts. How much easier is life?
We are...
Get the accurate truth, and it's not going to come from a rabbi. It is not going to come from religious people, because they have far too much invested in their lives to tell you the truth.
Speaking of Pesach, it's the first sliver of the moon nearest the vernal equinox. Today is the vernal equinox, and we had, depending on whether you look at the astronomical, which would be you can't see it, but you can calculate it, or the observational time. We will be celebrating Pesach, your choice, either on the 1st or the 2nd of April, depending if you want to go right to the precise edge of astronomical calculation, which I think is what the rabbis don't actually look at any of this. They just came up with a math formula.
Yes, they did.
And or you can celebrate it on observational, which would be the 2nd of April. Either one of those 2 days would start the 7 days of Chag Matzah. I don't know if you guys looked at that. Do you have a preference?
I was just going to say Shemek Tabib.
I'm an observational guy.
You're an observational guy, yeah. So you're going to celebrate it on the 2nd of April.
Yeah, I can adjust that. I mean, if I found that you guys were going to go early, then I could just bump that up one. But for right now,
I don't really. By the way, I don't think when I'm asking the question, I don't think it matters. I don't think Yahowah much cares which one we do. Wookie says he wants to participate. He doesn't know that the cappuccino is too low for him to get any, but he's going to try a little iced tea. I don't really think it matters which one we choose. We know that with Hezekiah, when he found a copy of the Torah, realized that they were in deep doo-doo with all the religiosity because the Torah is anti-religious. He then cleared away all the religious stuff, 185,000. Then Assyrians came to march on Jerusalem. They said, we can't observe Pesach, Matsah, Bikuwrym. Based upon we still got religious stuff here we got to clean up. We got to get the priests so they know what they're doing. I need a 2-week delay. Can we have a 2-week delay? God said, sure, fine, no problem. But God says, so he's not going to have quibble whether or not we determine that we're going to celebrate Pesach on beginning on the 1st or the 2nd of this month. I kind of like the 2nd too, but because I have a tendency to prefer observational to calculated.
It's kind of
observational because it becomes a teaching moment for my daughter. Whenever the weather permits, we like to go out and try and look for the first sliver of the moon.
Yes, I do.
Weather permits, which often it does not around this time of year.
Yeah, I do 2 things. I like looking for the full moon because from the full moon I know I've got exactly 1 month.
Yeah.
Pesach, Matzah, Bikuwrym always occur under a full moon. So from the full moon I know I have a month. And it's much easier to identify the full moon than it is the first sliver of light on the moon. So I actually go both ways. And I'm a moon sort of a guy.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Who would have give you
You're
that
not
clue?
as much of a Mooney as I am, though.
Yeah, Leah likes the moon too, but she's prejudiced.
Very romantic, though.
Yeah. Do you guys know where the calendar is now on the website? I've occasionally have people write and say, why'd you get rid of the God's Calendar book?
Shana Years. Yeah.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's in Shana Years. So, and which is a natural place for it to be. But we decided not to replicate the chapter of Shana Years that became the God's Calendar. That's all in Shana Years, and you can look up. We have all the information. We may put a tab on the bottom of the page that just says calendar, and we'll replicate again that work because it's something that actually Joe did years ago. He was the one that created all of that NASA related stuff so that you know exactly what is, which I've used for years to know. And my judgment was always, I'll go back between observational and computational based upon what percentage of the the sun's light reflected on the moon is there and what time of day does it appear. So that if the renewal of the sun's light on the moon is after sunset, I'll say that day doesn't count. And if it's before sunset, then I will make the determination as to whether or not it is more or less than 1%. If it's less than 1%, I'll say, nah, that's too little, can't be seen. I'll go to the next day. So that's my thinking every time. I'll look at it and I'll make my determination as to whether or not the first renewal is before or after sunset. If it's after sunset, I'll say no, then we're at the next day. And if it's less than 1%, even if it's before sunset, I'll say, no, we're going to go to the next day. That's not enough. So that's always been my thinking. But I don't like to be dogmatic because I like what you do, JB. Let's make it a teaching opportunity. I don't want to give you the date. I would rather provide the information so that you can go through the process because it's a teaching moment to think this through. And of course, it was originally conveyed because the Exodus occurred when the flax was in flower and barley was still green and growing in the fields. And the winter crop of barley is harvested when it's still green and growing and receptive, which is right around the vernal equinox. And the flax begins to flower around the vernal equinox. So the first year of the first month of the new year is when the light begins to be reflected on the moon closest to the vernal equinox, because the climate has changed a lot, and particularly in the Promised Land, has become much more arid than it was previously, and that affects things. And the area around Jerusalem isn't used for farming anymore. So we can't say, well, it's a barley crop in and around Jerusalem. Weather's different, and they're not growing much barley there. So this is just a way of knowing when it happens, just based upon our thoughtfulness and observations. So this is how we come up with it. But we recognize that Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym is part of Chag Matzah. Chag Matzah is a 7-day event, and it is the most important time of the year. And it is about removing yeast from our lives and from our diet, because yeast is a fungus that permeates the bread of life. And God says, that's what I'm removing through what Dowd did. He carried the corruptive fungus of our religious rebellion from God into Sheol to deposit it, never to be seen again. He removed it, never to be seen, which is exactly what God says in his instructions with the yeast. Take it away, never to be seen again. Best place to put it would be in Sheol, which nothing ever escapes. Good place to have it trashed. And that's where he took it, and that's what it represents. It's a removal of religion. That's the reason why rabbis don't celebrate matzah. They designated it as an ingredient for Passover. They don't know that matzah is the removal of religion and political corruption from our lives, and it being taken to Sheol. They don't recognize Sheol exists. They don't recognize religion as a corruption, and they don't recognize that Chag Matzah is the core and heart and meaning of the celebration, which means they're just not listening to God. They cannot claim to be Torah observant and to miss that. And of course, they don't celebrate Bikuwrym. They have no clue as to what it represents. It's a shame. And the saddest thing of all is, in the midst of all of this, they set a place setting for Elijah. Yeah. Have they any clue what God picked Elijah for a single reason? What was Eliah's thing? What was Eliah committed to?
Wipe out religion and politics.
That is correct. So the rabbis are both religious and political. He would be they are going to be his first victim.
That person you want at your table.
Oh my God. He's going to rid the world of all religious and political Jews. Well, my responsibility is getting rid of the religious and political Goyim. So he's the wrong guy to invite to your religious feast. And of course, the smallest offering on Passover at Jews, they've got everything that's designated to be on the plate, but all they'll throw on is a zeroah, and they'll call it. They recognize the zeroah is a lamb bone, but the zeroah is the Passover lamb. That's why Yahowah calls Dowd the zeroah. Put the pieces together, folks.
Sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
Put some lamb on there.
Right. God announces twice in this Mizmowr that Dowd is the zeroah. And you're putting the zeroah on the plate, and yet you can't figure it out. It's pretty sad.
They don't even have lamb as part of their Passover meal, right?
Hardly. I mean, it's a minor part of the meal.
It proves that you were, that Yah doesn't want a whole lot of family members out of this first group, because otherwise he'd have to send you here about 50 years earlier.
Yeah. I think that God's well, first of all, God has timing, and so he's inserted these players to stay on his timeline. Right. But if his timeline were delayed 25 years, we wouldn't have anybody to talk to. This current generation is so dumbed down that we'd have nobody to talk to. Like the last two generations, they can't think. Your son is a remarkable example, Will, but for the most part, Gen Z is thoughtless. And the other problem is that with social media creating this artificial world, and with AI blurring the lines between real and fake, we're reaching a point where it's going to be impossible to tell people the truth and have them recognize what's true and false, and then to be able to process it intelligently. So, as you say, JB, with your daughter, you're going to have to raise her, and raise her to understand and appreciate the things of Yahowah. She's young, so that she makes the journey with us, because otherwise it's going to be rough out there.
She already gets into it some with her classmates and stuff about Yahowah, because she'll straight up tell them there's no Jesus.
Yeah, there is no Jesus.
Good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
That's tough in Texas.
Yeah, and of course, Will says, of course, it doesn't make her very popular.
She's got some good friends that are okay with it, and they just kind of don't talk on that subject. But
did Jake talk about it at all, or is he quiet about it? Will? I think Will's lost. We've lost audio for Will there. All right, so God is literally saying that you have forfeited the covenant when you have rejected Dowd. So it is hard to understand why anybody would throw it all away for religion when God is so anti-religious, but that's exactly what they've done. Now, for those who may be protesting, saying that they haven't repudiated Dowd, as we've talked before, because they honor the David by wrapping themselves in a flag emblazoned with the 6-point star. But you see it all over. The proponents for Israel are all enveloped in a 6-pointed star. So we challenge that assumption categorically, stating that there was never a Star of David, and David isn't even his name. And creating a caricature degrades his authentic nature. It is one of the many stars. He is not one of many stars, I should say, nor is he part of a religious zodiac. Yet, Zohar would have him be that. Not only would Dowd be recognized by the number 3 that represents his the 3 Mow'ed Mikre that he fulfilled. It's the intersecting triangle is purely pagan. It's a religious icon of considerable antiquity, and it was in the Hindu religion and other religions long before it was incorporated into Judaism, and it was the symbol that the Roman Church and later the German Nazis used to denigrate and demonize Jews. You have to have a Stockholm syndrome to use that as your symbol. So a little explanation may be helpful as we consider this next statement. I want to try to introduce it. You've already, Will actually, I think, was the one that spoke of it, breaking down the sheepfold. The sheepfold, whose walls have been torn down by religious Jews, represents barriers around the covenant, which were designed actually to keep the religious out, to keep the political at bay, to keep the conspiratorial away from the covenant. God has to have a filter. He has to have walls so that those who do not know him, those who are opposed to what he represents, don't ruin it for those who he wants to have as part of his family. So it reads, you have broken down and destroyed. You have breached, and hostility you have shattered, negatively impacting his entire sheepfold and all of its walls. You have caused the undoing, the degradation and destruction of his fortifications. So that's damning, as you mentioned earlier. Will, they tore down the sheepfold. The sheepfold, the covenant is where God has called his sheep home, and the shepherd is Dowd, and they've torn it all down. And by tearing it down, they eliminated the means that God had to keep those part of his family safe and to keep those who don't belong out. It's kind of like the walls of Eden.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
And rabbis have torn them down. They're not only not part of the covenant, they've deconstructed the covenant. So as a rebuke to every religion, Yahowah has deliberately restricted access to his covenant. So there are walls around it, effectively keeping the religious and political out, whether ignorant or adverse to the 5 conditions that God established for entry. And there's 5. Men like Akiba and Maimonides, Paul and Peter, have sought to annul the Almighty's intent while projecting their own rules, and God's not buying it. Now I want to be a little careful here. I've long had the debate about the person known as Peter, because his real name was Shimon. And my issue with him is Paul hated him. Paul openly condemned him. And Paul openly condemned Jacob and Yahuwah. And so I've always wondered when Peter has that, what's tried to Peter, that horrible episode in the 2nd chapter of Acts. And he talks about the birth of a church and Pentecost, and then goes off and quotes a prophecy from Joel that pertains to the last days and has not even been fulfilled yet. So it's another 7 years away. And everything that is said is stupid. But it sounds a lot like it was written by Paul, or at least it would be what Paul would once say. And then you realize that Luke, Paul's buddy, is the one who wrote that story long after Shimon is gone. And so I actually don't think that Shimon, who I think was Dowd's brother, said any of those things. I think that they were projected back into his mouth to get Paul's revenge on Shimon, who he hated, was to co-opt him into his story. Yeah, I don't think he was the one at fault. I think it was Luke and Paul that connived it.
Are any of these 3 Elia? Come back
Pardon?
to using them again. Are any of these 3 brothers this second being recycled? Have been recycled?
Yeah, could one of the 3 brothers have been Elia? Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's difficult. The reason it's difficult for us to know is that all we know is that there were brothers, because that's the only way that Paul would have somebody to rebuff and to attack that would have been associated with the true Messiah when he created his myth, were those who represented the true Messiah. That's why he had to attack them. So we know that he had to have brothers, but we don't know really what any one of the brothers said, because it wasn't their job to write about what Dowd did. It was their job to protect their brother up to the point that their brother fulfilled Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym. Then their job was done, because Dowd had already written everything we needed to know about Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym. Now, is it possible that they actually did write something, and that something they wrote was the Ibanim, and that the leaders of the Ibanim, who are the ones who provided us the narrative of the Sermon on the Mount and the Olivet Discourse, which are exceedingly pro-Torah and anti-Christian, is it possible that those 3 individuals are the ones who wrote down what Dowd said? Yeah. But would that be enough for us to project Elia into the lives of one of them?
No, I don't think so.
No, I think you need more. Yeah, I haven't done the study yet. I think that it has been broached some, but the character that reminds us most of Elia in terms of his bold style, his soaring rhetoric, and his courage would be Samson.
Yeah,
I think Samson is the closest analog to him. But I haven't done the study because it's not really it's not something that, even if I were to identify, I don't think it's something that is going to change the story for us all that much. I think it's important to follow the lesser luminary through all of his insertions. His wife, because she plays such a big role and throughout in all of them, and of course Dowd, and we know for certain Elia is having those 3 lives because he has to live the 3. He's already the one. He's coming back. There's Dylan coming back as one of the 2 witnesses, and then he has a brief sacrifice to provide the goat's blood for anointing the Ark of the Covenant, at which time he is going to be the happiest man alive to get rid of his physical body, to be part of those of us who have bodies become optional. That's why I'm happy to serve as the Adamah Parah, because it's the physical body that goes, and that means that from that point on you can dial up whatever body you want. I think it's pretty cool. I think that we will probably have some of our look. I don't think God would like it very much if we completely disguised our identity. And so I think there's probably a significant amount of certainly the facial features going all the way through, in my case, with Enoch, with Noach, with Midod, with Obed Edom, Ethan Haj Rocky, Boaz twice, and now is Yada. I think there's probably some of that. I think it make Yahowah feel more comfortable, particularly as we come back. I think our tone of voice will be similar. But the big issue is that the soul is the carrier of our personalities. It carries our attitudes and our attributes. So you're in all of these characters, you're going to see exactly the same personality. So the personality, the attributes, which are the things that we do well, our proclivities, and our attitudes, they're going to come through. And now we have the opportunity to look back and say, oh yeah, that's what we did. So you can build your own memory based upon what God tells you that you have done. But I think that as we come back in these next couple of examples, we're going to have a very comprehensive understanding of all of our interactions. And I think we come back as a team to fulfill Towrah and the last days. We're all going to come back with a full knowledge of what we did in this life and what we learned while in Shamaim. And we're coming back very much enriched. So that's my thinking on it. But yet with the same personality. Yeah, Kirk's going to be as charming as Kirk has ever been. Right? I'll be as irascible as I've ever been. I mean, we like that, don't we? Yeah, we God picked our personalities for a reason, and He likes it this way. And it takes a mix of people. What He's looking for is variety, and boy, can we bring it! I mean, look at the difference between our personalities. Yeah, I mean, we're very different people, and then you add Rich. He is very different to the mix, and Leah being very different, Dr. Jeff being very different. We all contribute in a unique way, but having a lot of commonality, but yet being very different in terms of personalities and attributes and attitudes, and that's what makes it interesting. If it weren't that way, it wouldn't be interesting for God at all. So as we just try to understand all this, I think that the insight here that is worth repeating is the one I've just hinted at, which is that Eden had walls. They weren't there to keep Adam and Chawah locked inside as if they were prisoners, but except to keep them safe from all the death and harm and humans really outside. The growing propensity of man to be religious and vicious. And Eden was a protective enclosure. He didn't want that inside of it. And ultimately, he had to take Adam and Chawah and put them out so that they could be exposed to that, so they could develop a backbone. Because just keeping them in the sheltered environment, they weren't growing. There was no chance they were ever going to measure up and become anything, so they had to be taken out. So I also think that in this regard, that again, the protective enclosure of Eden, great joy, was, as the name implies, it was fun because the antagonists were excluded. But I also think it's a microcosm of the earth. I think the earth is the place in this universe that's the most conducive to life. I watch a lot of scientist shows every evening, and at least one every evening, and a political show every evening, and a war assessment show every evening, sometimes two. And I watch our own program every evening, and that's about all I can do. But one of the things that I've learned is that scientists have come to realize that there is no life on any other planet, and that intelligent life on another planet isn't unlikely, it's impossible. There are way too many requirements, and it's way too improbable that we would find intelligent life on any other planet.
I read a lot of sci-fi, especially growing up, and one of the concepts that was I can't remember the name of the book right now, but it discussed the idea that there's literally no evolutionary advantage to consciousness. So the likelihood of it evolving on another planet is so extreme because we cannot find an actual advantage to it. It actually puts you at a disadvantage because conscious people, you're more likely to go take care of your wounded friend and risk your life. That's disadvantage to evolution. So the likelihood of life, possibly microbial life, even maybe some flora or fauna, but the likelihood of conscious beings is pretty slim. Yeah.
The other thing that's incredibly slim is large brain intelligence. Mm-hmm. Our brains consume about 20 to 25% of our energy, and there is no evolutionary advantage to them. They are a disadvantage. And so there is literally no chance that humans with a large brain and that much resource being consumed by something that does not encourage survival. You look at the things that haven't changed, the sharks, little pea brain. You don't need a big brain to look at the dinosaurs and all of those hundreds of billions of years that there was a dinosaurs and all the variations of dinosaurs. There was never a smart one, and never one that started writing or communicating in a language to other dinosaurs or build habitat. Never a single dinosaur with whom you could have a conversation with and ever looked up in the sky and says, I wonder where the first dinosaur came from. Never happened. So the evolution of a brain of the kind that can ask these kind of questions and have conversations is extraordinary to the point of it could not have been an evolutionary advantage. And we look at all of the various creatures, and there's only one that did it. So it wasn't anything other than a mistake. And it just found an interesting crease in time to survive. Otherwise, it wouldn't have survived. And it's apparent that it's not going to survive very long because it can do. That's why God grieved about creating this Alma man. And there's just way too much that is unexplainable and counterproductive in intelligent life. So is there life on other planets? Absolutely. But so what? If you see a bunch of slime someplace or bacteria, so what? Doesn't do anything. You can't talk with it. You can't have an experience with it. And then the other thing, of course, they recognize is just not only is the Earth so fine-tuned for life. It is, the Eden is a microcosm of Earth. It's a sheltered environment that's ideal for life. But the other part of it is, let's just pretend that there's another form of intelligent life somewhere in the universe. We could never, ever communicate with each other. We could never visit each other. There is no way that a human is ever going to get past Mars, which is as far as we could ever even hope to be able to travel as a human. And if we ever get to Mars, we'll die there. We'll never get back. And Mars is nowhere. I mean, it's the closest planet in our solar system there is an impossibility that humans would ever get to one of the moons of Saturn or Jupiter. And if we got there, the radioactivity and all those other kinds of things wouldn't work. And like in Titan, it's the oceans are gasoline. I mean, it's it's impossible. You want to get to Venus, you even in the most protective of enclosures on Venus, before the pressures would kill you and the heat would melt your structure, you might have 20 minutes to survive. And Mars is unbelievably hostile. And so humans just can't get anywhere. And you can never accelerate anything near the speed of light. Our bodies fall apart away from 1G gravity. We're made for this particular environment. You can't simulate 1G gravity in a spacecraft that you can get off this Earth and ever accelerate to go anywhere. There's not enough energy on the planet or even on our solar system to accelerate a spacecraft of that size, even to 50% of the speed of light, much less to the speed of light. And if you accelerate to the speed of light, you're still, and you can't even get close to that speed, because it would take infinite energy to get to that speed, and you would grow to encompass the entire universe. Mass just can't do that. And even at that point, where are you going to go? You can't get to it. I mean, just literally no place to go, even if you could accelerate to some high percentage of the speed of light. You can't get anywhere. And if you were to accelerate anywhere close to the speed of light, then the entire universe is deadly. Every particle in space would rip your spacecraft apart. And if you were to accelerate to that kind of speed, how are you going to decelerate? And how are you going to land on another planet? How are you going to even find another planet that has any potential of having an oxygen-rich atmosphere and to be the right distance from the right kind of star that is habitable, that has the ability to support life? It's never going to happen. So we are the anomaly. We are the Garden of Eden on this planet, and
people like to argue that with the size of the universe, there's bound to be some other habitable planet out there. Yeah, but what's the likelihood of it being within any place we could reach within 10 generations of people?
No, of course not. The problem is that what we have determined is because of cosmic explosions and supernova and that sort of thing that are so destructive, that you can't have life in any galaxy that is near other galaxies. You have to have, the galaxy has to be in a bubble away from other galaxies. The Milky Way is unique in that regard. So most galaxies don't even qualify, because most galaxies are part of galactic systems. And
they're so close they pass through each other.
Right. So you can't, you cannot have life in a galaxy, which would be the vast majority of them. They're close to other galaxies. The second is that within a galaxy, the only place you could possibly have life would be in one of the outer arms. It can't be too far out, because then the stars are too weak. And if it's too far in, then the radiation and other cosmic events would obliterate life regularly and never give it the chance to develop. And so it has to be in an outer band. Now you're talking about a tiny fraction of the number of galaxies and a tiny fraction of the space within each galaxy. And then, you have to have there's only one kind of star that's capable of doing this, that isn't too unpredictable, too unstable. Like a red dwarf won't do it. Most stars are red dwarfs. They won't do it. And the really large, powerful stars will overwhelm a planet. So it has to be a sun about our size, which is quite unique. And you've got to have a moon that is abnormally large for the planet, which ours is. Otherwise, you don't get tides, and you don't get the stabilized orbit and rotation that we have, which are absolutely necessary. A planet that's tidal locked to its sun is incapable of producing life. And then you have to have a magnetic field, which can only happen in a planet that's a rocky planet that has or just a planet that's large enough to have one, and for that to be maintained. But you can't do it on a gas giant, because on a gas giant they become deadly and way too strong. But you can't support life on a gas giant. But speaking of gas giants, if you don't have a gas giant in your solar system that is the right distance from your planet, then the bombardment of asteroids will take out all life on your planet. So you have to have that as well. You have to have tectonic plates. Without tectonic plates, there aren't the climactic zones that make the various forms of life and the upward mobility of life even possible. You have to be exactly the right distance from the star with the right kind of star. And then after all of that, the chance development of microbial life is so infinitesimally small, particularly since it has to find a way to reproduce and feed itself in that first generation, making it ridiculously slim. And then there is nothing that would ever say that life should involve more complexity, because that has to be a mutation in the genome, which is almost always fatal. It just gets to the point where the people are honest about it, say, okay, yeah, there's a lot of planets out there and a lot of solar systems, but no. There is this is unique. It was created for this purpose. It is a big version of Eden. That's why God's returning the earth to the conditions of Eden. That's how it was designed. And while we may create life on other planets using DNA and have some fun with it, there's no place else. We are very unique, and the whole myth of UFOs and of aliens. It's all science fiction. It's all fiction. And we have never been visited by an alien species. There are no UFOs. And it's impossible for anybody else to get here. They wouldn't even know where to come. And they're not traveling at even a fraction of the speed of light. And there's no this idea you're in a warp time or have a warp drive. It's ludicrous.
The other points I always loved, and I can't remember, this was either something I heard you say early on, or it was something I heard in an interview with Gerald Schroeder, but I pointed out that for life that randomly comes into existence to matter, three things have to be there. It has to have an energy source, an ability to process that energy source in a productive way, and then the third one, it has to have the ability to procreate, because otherwise it's created, it lives, it dies, and nothing. And nothing. Procreation is purpose-driven.
Right.
Purpose implies creator.
Right. Yeah, reproduction and a food source. Not only a food source, but an ability to process that food source. So that creative first life has to have something that was invented to process food, and then it has to have food. And then it has to have a reproduction system. So, hey, well, I'm an amoeba. I think I want to reproduce other amoebas. And oh, by the way, I think that's a tasty little amoeba out there. Let's try one. And we have a way to consume it. We have a way to find it. We have a way to consume it. We have a way to process that as energy. And then we have a way to make other little amoebas. I mean, come on. I mean, it's so far-fetched. It's almost religion to believe it's
purpose-driven. It's perpetuation of the species. Purpose implies creation.
DNA is a language, and languages were created. We have one example of humans creating a written phonetic language. It was the greatest invention of human time. It only created once, and it's the single most powerful thing we've ever done. And DNA is a at least three-dimensional. We don't know how many other dimensions, but at least three-dimensional language, like a programming code. And our souls, which are consciousness, can't be measured, not as energy, not as mass. And so they exist outside of our frame of reference. The reason science can't assess what they are, consciousness, is because they literally exist outside of our frame of reference. And when you understand that, then you put yourself in a position where you can understand how God can keep his favorite people and plan on track, because he conceived this idea of consciousness as something that was beyond the three dimensions that we understand. And he can manipulate it any way he wants, and that he knows that those souls that he likes, he can bring into his home, keep as part of his family, and redeploy as he sees fits. He likes working with certain people. In fact, he can say, I can stay in heaven, I can be cool, I can have a good time, I can even laugh along with those that I deploy, and I can show that they're capable of getting it done. I'll pick people that are capable, willing, to see it through. And I'll pick the right personality. I'll throw a lamb in when I need a lamb. I'll bring in a goat when I need a goat, and I'll bring in a bull when bull's right. And, if the bull says that's my favorite heifer, then there you go. She comes along. No one's going to be calling Leah a heifer, though, and nor will I after this program. But
Richard got to strike that from the record.
Yeah, Leah, by the way, is Leah is really struggling with this. This is tough. I mean, she knows it's there, and there's no she's not going to deny it's there, and it's but what she's learning is what I've had to endure these last 24 years, 25 years, particularly in the last 10. When you're anonymous and you're contributing to the story, it's wonderful. You enjoy it. There's no pressure, no responsibility. Everything you do is plus. Everything in your life that you accomplish as an anonymous contributor is plus. And God has a way of giving that person a million times more than they can contribute. And so it's just fun. But when you lose your anonymity, you become like Dowd and like Elia and like Yahowah and Moshe. It's tough, and no one has ever done it that has not wanted to give up, that has not said, I just can't do this anymore. And it's an exceedingly difficult thing to do. And the more you lose your anonymity, and the more you're brought into the story with a discernible role, and God says, this is my person. I'm telling you, this is my person because I want you to listen to this person. You need to take advantage of what this person is telling you. This is my guy. I'm going to give you, 1,000 clues and pronouncement that this is my guy. The more God says that, the more God says about him, the more difficult his life or her life becomes. So those people that think, it's an egotistical thing to say, no, it's exactly the opposite. And so Leah's, of course, struggling with it because she knows how vicious people become. She's read the stories and know that everyone that's ever been named, at some point says, God, can you just kill me? I can't do this. These people are just way too obnoxious. And look what has happened with the people have torn Leah up, just absolutely abused her in the worst possible way. And that whole cult that exists out there, they just absolutely despise her. It's tough. And so she's recognizing that. And it was lovely that she made a contribution to the show tonight. We go too long. That's longer than she wants to sit still. But she knows just how vulnerable she has become now that she is a named and known player in the story. And it's, boy, the anxiety and the sleepless nights and, your first experience at hers is, all right, I need to contribute more. So she's an introvert working with like 40 people. And she is up to 2-3 o'clock in the morning, working right through. She sits in her chair, bad back and all, and she will do it all day. I mean, we'll even sit down for a meal. And she says, I got to go. I'll try to have a conversation. No, I got to go. I got things to do. It's just constant. And so your first inclination is, all right, God, if you trust me in this way, this is what you want done, then I'm going to honor your trust. And so you have a tendency to work yourself till there's nothing left. You just keep on giving until there's literally nothing more to give, and you become like Moshe and Elia and all of them, where you just say, God, I can't do this anymore. And I keep on saying, pace yourself, girl. I've been doing this 25 years now. I'm built for this. Now, you're not built for it. And if you don't pace yourself, it'll eat you up alive. So for those who think that she is being, or I'm being presumptuous in all of this, I want to tell you the opposite is true. Leah had an experience in life, enough experience just to know that being a public figure was a bad thing. And I had many where, and I came to this island because I didn't want to be a public figure. God, being a public figure is a miserable experience. And so it's so interesting that those people have done nothing with their lives, envy, and try to take down people that have accomplished something. And everybody wants their time, their glory, the moment of glory. And you just realize, no, this is being famous comes at a tremendous price. And God's only going to do it with those that he has done it with before and is assured that at another time they've proven that they can be trusted with it. So you take a deep breath. Personally, I've been doing it now for 25 years. I've gotten to know Yahowah well enough to know that the moment I'm getting comfortable, he's going to make me uncomfortable again, because without that, you don't grow. And he wants us to know how deep and magnificent his story is.
It is that.
So, and it is that. It is deep. It is magnificent. It's multi-layered. He's the greatest storyteller ever. And the more you are serious about his story and you know his style and the way that he presents information, and then we come to conclusions, and then we find that he has provided proof for it, the more confident and comfortable you become with him. But then the more confident and comfortable you become with him, then more and more is expected, because he realizes that if he doesn't continue to push you, you don't continue to grow. And what's the purpose of life if you can't grow? So, here we are. I'm not complaining. I happen I'm thrilled that God thinks that we're going to get this done. Obviously he does. He's celebrating the result. Do not make it easy. I will tell you that. All right. There's just a few of us left. We had Dr. Jeff had to go save a life. Will got cut in and off. Any concluding thoughts up there, Kevin?
Not tonight. Absolutely. I got a little background noise, so I've been muting my mic.
Okay. All right, JB.
I was just going to say, I think you got lucky in one regard with the internet, because you can isolate yourself on an island and not be surrounded by idiots all day long. You have to deal with them online, but you can kind of get away from that every now and then.
Yes. In fact, if it wasn't for that, I'm sure I would have folded. So this is definitely a sanctuary. You still are exposed to them because of the internet. It's a really biting, terrible environment. And the bigger frustration is the people you're trying to help are obnoxious, which is what everyone that speaks for Yahowah has to endure. But you're right. The being on the island is helpful. Now, I'm going to tell you, life's going to get very difficult for these next few years. We're even told on this island we're running out of fuel, we're running out of everything, and how are we going to keep the power going? How they're going to fuel cars? How they're going to provide natural gas for cooking and that sort of thing. Trump has really made a real mess of this planet. It's going to get really nasty out here. What do you think, Kirk?
Well, I tell you, it's been the greatest journey of my life, and I love it. But I wish I had more energy. I came in a little late, and I'm a little older than y'all. And believe me, I get tired, and I go, gosh, I really get pissed off about the whole thing. To be honest with you, I have so many
Yeah, I
things
do
want to do.
Yeah, and I get tired too. My eyes give out, and I can work anywhere from 12 to 14 hours a day, and after that, I'm useless to the world. I have to. I mean, I will. Rich will still be working because he's really dedicated, and he'll come in, and I'll be watching some educational program because I'm trying to keep current on what's happening around the world so I can speak intelligently about it. But there's a limit to what you can do. What do you think, my friend? You've been here now a month or so on this isolated island and part of our world and life. What's your
Well, nothing ever stops, for one thing.
No, it never stops.
It never stops. And there's always more to learn. And you have to figure out what you can do to help Yahowah.
Yeah. It's learning is the constant, and since it is our constant, and we're living in this little paradise with Yahowah, I suspect that learning will be our constant forever. I don't think anything's going to change in that regard.
I made a speech back when I was in college saying that my goal in life is to never stop learning. People did understand me.
Yes. Yeah. Why would you want to stop learning? And by the fact that you're never stopping learning, which means you are constantly going to become aware of misperceptions you've had, and you're going to have the opportunity to learn from them and grow as a result of them, and overcoming misperceptions and having a clearer picture of how all the pieces fit together is an enormously important part of the process.
Well, that's everyone else. I always understand everything perfectly the first time.
And then you would be unique. And I know you're being facetious, but the very fact is that if any of us understood the entire story, understood everything from the beginning, there'd be no purpose to our lives.
No.
We would have no way to demonstrate that we could grow. We'd have no way to grow. We'd have no way to prove that we were observant. We'd have no way to prove that we were responsive. We'd have no way to prove that we could be trusted. And we could not be interesting to Yahowah.
That's what makes life fun.
So this perfection thing is no. It is about this whole process, and then saying, this insight to affirm that we're right. Our knowledge and understanding, our connections drew us to the conclusion that Adam is Dowd. And when you realize that and how it then pulls the whole picture together from beginning to end, it's didn't know that 2 weeks ago.
No, and it makes the whole story flow properly.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
You think about that long to find out it was right, though. Once you read it, I go, oh, it's right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I thought it was when you said it, because you make an awfully good argument. But
yeah,
when you look at it right there in print, you go, well, why did we miss that?
Yeah, because there's only one person that God breathed the soul, which is the only part of God, the only part of a person that God cares about, into, along with the intellect, this Nesama, and that he created without a mother and father. It would be his firstborn, Bikuwrym. It's obviously Dowd as Adam. So that was obvious. And then you see the overlap of personalities. You can come to that conclusion and say, I'll go with that. And I did. And then there you go. You're reading in 1 Samuel's 16th chapter, and God introduces Dowd to us for the first time. And the first thing he says is that he is all things pertaining to Adam and my man.
Well, part of the reason nobody figured it out before is because before you can figure that out, you have to realize that Dowd is the Messiah.
Correct.
Which most people don't recognize, so they're never going to make that connection.
Yeah, and knowing that he's the Messiah is important, but knowing that he is the Son of God is more important.
Yeah,
and then knowing that he is the returning King is more important than that, and that knowing that he is the Zeroah who fulfilled Pesach, Matsah, and Bikuwrym is more important than that. And then recognizing, well, even before you recognize that he is Adam, you know that he has 3 lives. And so there's something special that God can do with a nephesh soul, isn't there? So all of it just adds to it until you come to, until you add all that together and understand how those things work, you're not in a position. Yeah. And, and I realize that for most people, what we're saying here is just, and if you were naturally prone to be hostile to us and to what we're saying about God, which would be all religious, conspiratorial, and overtly political people, you're going to have a conniption fit on it. Like that's, they write terrible things about me when I say that when I read the 31st Mashal, and it speaks of Leah as the M of Dowd and the Amah, and she's the Ashar, and it says 3 times very positively that this interaction is with her Baal, her husband.
Oh yeah, they jumped all over that one, didn't they?
Oh my God, they had a conniption fit over that. And then you realize, okay, so you want to tell me that Baal is always bad? Then why did Yahowah tell us that he was Baal to his covenant family? I mean, he says, I was your Baal. So you're going to say that God must be Satan then? Are you out of your mind? Or when one of the earliest prophets, his name was Balaam. A husband and a marriage that's part of the covenant is a very good thing. That's why Yahowah uses the term positively. Just because Satan took the term and corrupted it, it doesn't mean the term's bad. It's just like Asher being attributed to Leah and being attributed to both Leahs, my Leah and the Leah of Jacob, and to have a son of Jacob, son of Yisrael, being named Asher, and to have Asher being one of the most repeated terms relative to God used anywhere in the Torah, it's a positive thing. And yet Satan took it and ran with it as Asherah, even calling Asherah the blessed and beneficial, which is why you get, Hail Mary, blessed of God, this whole thing, blessed mother of God. They took a truth and corrupted it for their religion.
Well, they even did it to Torah. They took Torah and turned it into law.
That's right. So, Torah is a religious term in Judaism that is horrid. But does that make the Torah bad? No. El was the name of the Canaanite god. Does that mean El's bad? No.
That just means Satan is very good at corrupting Yahweh's words.
Correct.
Just dresses it up a little bit at a time, and you go, oh, well, that must be it. Looks kind of like it.
Yeah. And the passage that the numbskulls will quote is in Yirmiyah, and in that particular passage, the person that is associated with Baal that God is besmirching is negating the value of his name. They're erasing his name and they're replacing his name with a Baal, and yet, here we go. Who was the person that reintroduced Yahweh's name? So we did the opposite of what that is accusing, and yet these numbskulls would write a letter saying that must be, well, that Baal is the one that God is demeaning, therefore you're that Baal, you're Satan. You're just not thinking. It's the curse of conspiracy.
They're still religious.
Yeah, you see a dot on the wall and you can't see anything past it, and everything revolves around the dot on the wall. And I think, Perry, as you are here, you recognize that the thing that is important to us is the big picture. Sure, we'll look at the details, but only the details as they relate to the big picture.
That's it, exactly.
And we're consistent in that regard. And if we find something that is God saying this is the case as it appeared at Adam and Dowd, we go where the words lead. I've got no, if it wasn't true, I'd have no problem saying, oh, okay, well, that wasn't true. But when God affirms it, we just go there, and they're comfortable going there. No matter what people are going to say, it's nice to go there. And I think that ultimately, when we're in the 1,000-year celebration of Sukkah, there's going to be a lot of celebrations over these multiple insertions, and God saying, yeah, things got a little rough there, but Noah made it happen. And say, all right, the 89th Mizmowr, that was a real work of great importance in what it resolved. And, serving as Dowd's mother and father when he had such a crappy mother and father previously, before fulfilling Pesach, Matsah, Bikuwrym, that was really an important thing. I'm glad that you had that experience. Or can you believe that I told the story of Ruth and Boaz for 3,000 years before anybody figured out who they were? Gave them, 100 clues. I think we'll be talking about these things for a long time. And I think that the way the story fits together and the way that Yahowah told the story from the beginning to end, and the characters, and the beginning with the greater and lesser luminaries and the two trees and the ram and the bull, and how all of it's going to play out. I think we're actually going to be talking about these things for a very long time, because what you're trying to do with that mortal remnant is model the kind of behavior that God likes. And God's not redeploying these souls routinely because he dislikes them, is he?
No.
So these souls represent something that God likes. And since they and the group with them are the ones that God's art is deploying as the exemplars, well, wouldn't you want to pay attention to what they're doing? And, they're not perfect. They're not trying to pretend they're perfect. But that was what makes them interesting and good examples. If somebody was perfect, nobody would even be motivated to try to follow them.
I can't compete with that.
No. But God doesn't want you to compete. He wants you to learn from, these are people I like working with. And look at at the end, we take down Rahab. We bring back Dowd. We restored Yahweh's name. A mortal with the right soul, the right backing can do a lot. You look at all that we've accomplished over these 25 years, we've done a lot. And now, particularly with the website, the way it's coming, it's extraordinary.
Looking at it, it was good.
Yeah, it does. It really is coming together beautifully. And we'll make some more improvements on it over this weekend. I think we got a little far afield on some of the issues, but we're going to dial them in. And my view is that soon we'll be right there. Like the Ask Yada feature right now is really quite good. It does a real nice job of doing the search and answering the questions. The translations is magnificent. The glossary is wonderful. The Dead Sea Scrolls is world class. The blog section is great. The vlog is wonderful. The shorts are wonderful. The book presentation is unlike anything you'll find anywhere in the world. It is literally world class. That timeline is coming together beautifully. And I think that there's just one thing we need to develop, which is the communication, the chat function, so that we can use this as the way that we communicate among ourselves. And when that's there, we're going to have something really special. We already do have something really special.
Yeah.
But, and I love the fact that the Do You Yada is now integrated into it, and the invites are integrated into it. They're so beautifully done, and the music is one of the highlights, and it's integrated into it. There's a lot of treasures. There. The search is now wonderful. It's a marvelous job. So we'll just keep on fine-tuning it. We got a little time to do it, and we're going to do everything we can between now and then, and that's really what our focus is. And, we're trying to develop the covenant family so that we're ready to do our job. Well, it is now 2.5 hours. So, Perry, anything last you want to say before we say goodnight?
The only thing I have to say is if you go where the words lead, you don't have to second guess yourself.
You don't. And if you try to listen to what Yahowah has to say and support what he wants done, and try to model your personality, attitude, responses to his. And, he's a lot different than people think. He's got an edge to him. And he hates religion and politics, and he is not compromising. And so if you kind of try to take his same approach, you can't go wrong. If God says, this is how I'm going to do it, and you try to do it that way, chances are it's going to work out pretty well for you. What do you think there, Rich?
Like I always say, we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
We've got 14 months to actually make a big difference and help a lot of the semi-newer covenant members
grow up.
But you got to approach these Mikre respectfully.
Yes.
And really understand what's about to happen.
Yes.
And just take advantage of what we got, what time we have.
And make a contribution to what we're presenting, so that we show up before Yahowah and he's pleased.
Yep.
It's really important that he be pleased with what we're doing.
That's what I want.
Yes.
I want to be happy.
Yeah, you did a good job, kid.
I don't want
nice
I don't
job.
need to be famous like you. I'm just gonna hide in the background.
Yeah, I liked it better when we didn't have cameras.
Yeah, I did too. Life was so much easier.
I like we had commercials. We go pee.
Yeah, that was a big ask when Yahowah said, I want you to, first of all, you're going to lose your anonymity, but you're going to start speaking to my people. You're going to turn on the cameras. The big ask by God. A big ask, because it changes our lives so tremendously. You're just so enormously vulnerable at that point. When I wrote Prophet of Doom and got 1,000 death threats, the one thing that I avoided like the plague was a camera. I would do radio shows. I was already doing them on my own name, but I had avoided the camera. And while I was anonymous as Yada, you wouldn't find any picture of me anywhere. I was doing everything I could to avoid attention. That's just not possible anymore. Not without disappointing God, and we're just not going to run away from what he has said. So here we are doing our thing.
Take advantage of what time we got.
Yep. All right. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat
good night.
Shalom.
Thank you all for your contribution. We'll look forward to talking to you next week. Goodbye. Thanks for the double show, guys, back to back. Good night.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.